What's going on, everybody? I'm back with another video. This video is going to be looking at the Champions League final between Liverpool and Real Madrid. We're going to look at the tactics behind Real Madrid's 1-0 defeat over Liverpool. And before we get into that, check out the OneFootball app. It's the app that's sponsoring today's video, and it's the best app out there for all things football. Now, with all the biggest leagues around Europe ending, you're going to want to download this app to get all the latest transfer news and all the other leagues all across the world. You can stay up to date with the changes in your biggest teams and all the different news around the world. So they're sponsoring today's video, and they've been a huge support for this channel and one of the main reasons why I've been able to produce content. So it's a free download. I use it myself. That's the app on your screen. Check it out in the description below. That'd be a huge support. And while you're in the description, check out both my books as well as Keyframe, which is how I'm making this video. So now let's look at the tactics behind the match. So we'll look at Liverpool in possession of the ball first, starting from their initial phase and build-up. So Alisson splits the two central defenders, Virgil van Dijk and Konate, and then just in the second line of build-up, we have Fabinho being accompanied by Thiago as two deep-lying playmakers. Then we have on the right-hand side, we have Trent Alexander-Arnold, also coming more narrow and deeper to then join the holding midfielder and Thiago in the second line of build-up to then give them a little bit more control when they had the ball and would give more freedom to players like Andy Robertson to play higher up the field. But then as we move forward, we have Sadio Mane as the false 9, who would then drop in to then play as a more natural number 10 with pinning from Luis Diaz and Mo Salah higher up the field. And Trent Alexander-Arnold on this right-hand side had a good partnership with Jordan Henderson in their movements in and out of the right-hand half space. Real Madrid played in their natural 4-3-3 out of possession that would then drop into either a 5-1-3-1 or a 4-1-4-1. But in the high block, they would press in a 4-3-3 using man orientation to match up with the midfield, and their high block would only go so far. They would often drop deeper into a low block or a mid to low block, where they were then able to then control a smaller amount of space. So when Liverpool were able to either progress past Real Madrid's press, or Real Madrid would then back off into a deeper shape to then gain more control, Liverpool went with their usual build-up tactics for most of the match. They would have two central defenders occupied by then a three-man second-line build-up structure, with Thiago dropping deeper into the left half space, Fabinho holding the structure as the holding midfielder, and then either Jordan Henderson dropping deeper, but also able to create interchanges with Trent Alexander-Arnold, depending on the positioning of Mo Salah and Jordan Henderson. So this right-hand wide structure was a lot more fluid than this left-hand structure that often saw Robertson playing higher up the field, creating width and height, and allowing Luis Diaz to play between the lines. We would often have the space between the lines occupied by 3 or 4 players, and the biggest change tactically in the match was when Roberto Firmino came onto the field, and they played more of a 4-2-2-2 system that saw Firmino and Mane between the lines with then inverted wingers. So we'd have a 4-man occupation with partnerships being formed in the half spaces to then take advantage of pinning and trying to win space higher up the field. Now here we start to see some of the Real Madrid defensive tactics in their 5-1-3-1. So we have Casemiro as the single pivot, Modric and Kroos joining Vinicius as a 3-man more offensive midfield shape, and Benzema as the lone striker. And this was in direct response to Andy Robertson going higher up the field and Luis Diaz inverting. So it then allowed the fullback to go more narrow and allow Valverde to drop as a wingback to then control the run of Robertson. This also gave Real Madrid good access to the second line of build-up using man orientation and trying to force Liverpool into inefficient areas. Made it then harder for Liverpool to then access their inverted wingers, who were often followed by man orientation from the back line. Now attacking the low block of Real Madrid again, we have the two central defenders starting the build-up of Liverpool, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Fabinho, and Thiago, the same build-up shape, but now we have Jordan Henderson playing in a more narrow role, allowing Salah to drift out into a wider position, and allowing the front three to then take up a more asymmetric approach. So with Mane creating height, Luis Diaz inverting, we have Andy Robertson creating width. Then in response, we see Real Madrid go with their back five to then give them a greater span of width in their last line of defense. Casemiro protected his central defenders by just screening passes into the central area. And we have an off-centered midfield three shape with Modric and Toni Kroos working together to then gain access to the second line of Liverpool's build-up. Now for Real Madrid in possession. They really showed their experience when they had the ball, and they really know how to win a cup final, especially in the Champions League. But nothing too different in their initial phase of build-up when they were using Courtois. They would split their two central defenders, allow their fullbacks to occupy full width, and they would not undergo any serious midfield rotations to start off their build-up. They would build up in a midfield three with a front three that was then capable of dropping into deeper areas, especially with Benzema dropping deeper and Vinicius running in behind. Now Real Madrid built in this 4-3-3 shape, and Liverpool pressed them in a 4-3-3 as well. So the press from Liverpool was off-centered, which saw the front three players pressing the first line of build-up and would then leave the left fullback to Trent Alexander-Arnold jumping in an advanced area as well. So to support the initial press, we had the three midfielders with the two more advanced midfielders jumping on and going with numerical equality at the back, allowing then Trent Alexander-Arnold to create access with the wide fullback of Real Madrid. So now when Real Madrid would move out of their initial build-up and not use their goalkeeper, this is when we start to see more rotations, especially in the midfield. So to start off, we're just going to take a look at their base structure and their 4-3-3. Benzema often favored this left-hand half space, allowing to attract defenders and allowing Vinicius to run in behind. We would then see the 4-3-3 shape with Casemiro, Modric and Kroos. Casemiro maintained his stability in the central area for most of the match, allowing a lot of freedom for Kroos and Modric through the half space. Then we'd have the fullback, Mendy, progressing up the field and creating width. Now we see the 3/4 press from Liverpool in their 4-3-3. Mane would cover the holding midfielder, but their spatial orientation often allowed them to control space between the lines and naturally cover Luka Modric with Thiago's cover shadow and make him inaccessible to the ball. We'd have our back four creating space between the lines for Real Madrid, but again, because of the compactness and the spatial orientation of their initial setup, these players weren't able to often be created free between the lines against this Liverpool setup. When their movements would occur, Luka Modric would also drop deeper alongside Toni Kroos, who would then be on the weak side, dropping outside of the central corridors and outside of their central defenders as well. We would then have Valverde occupy with then Carvajal, creating a partnership to then create space off of one another, with Benzema creating height. Then we also see the unusual position that Casemiro takes up higher up the field and almost out of the way of the initial build-up for this four-man build-up from Real Madrid to move off of one another and take advantage of the space that then becomes apparent when Liverpool go to press. So when Liverpool press and move away from their spatially oriented 4-3-3, this is often where Real Madrid were able to find the space and take advantage of the unpredictability of the movement that was apparent in their offensive structure. We would then have Valverde being able to come inside into the half space, and Luka Modric and Toni Kroos jumping from deep positions often allowed them to access space further forward when they were able to find a third line pass. And this is where we're going to wrap up the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one.